Well, here we are. I started getting the LED strip put on this piece, and I hit it with some silver just to get some bouncing going on around here. Did a wash on here in this area, and then took the silver pastels from Tamiya, their weathering stuff, and hit around there to give it that metal knock, you know, where the edges of stuff get worn more and stuff like that. Did all that. Got a hole drilled down in here, because that's where the wires will come into this, and then this is pretty much open to the upper half where, you know, we're hiding all our electronic stuff. This piece here, I did a wash inside there. The LEDs are in there. I had to hit them with black. I should have printed those little sconces in black. Note to myself. So I had to go back and paint them black, and I just left them black and then used that Tamiya silver to kind of make it look like it has edges that are worn and knocked. And then I hit some silver in here, because the light's going to be right here shining up for all these lights here, for all these fiber optics here. And then I hit some silver there just to get some bouncing, kind of like you do in a like a Enterprise or, you know, Star Trek saucer. You can use white too. The silver was just sitting here, so that's why I used it. So hopefully that'll give us a little bit of bouncing around and help it brighten it up in there. Because we got it there, and in here, are we about the same? Yeah, as far as, and like I said, and then when it hits, you know, because this will be here, that'll give it a hole, so when the light hits up, what doesn't go in there can bounce back down and kind of hopefully bounce back up, and if it reflects on the walls, it'll, you know, hopefully bounce the light everywhere. That way these guys can pick them up, especially these here that are really tight against the wall. They're going to be like right up on the wall. But I think I'm going to try to get this all together and then put the whole thing on, because I got a lot of stuff to do on the inside, and I'm kind of holding back on gluing that last side on. Let's get these lights hooked up. So I already tinned this side. I'm hoping this is all I need. We'll do a test, and that's another reason why I want to get all this kind of closed in, because then I drilled 2 more holes here on the inside. There's a pair here and a pair here. The inner ones I just drilled, so I'm going to run the wires down in there, and that way I can still have the outer ones for a peg for a registry for the top part. I think that's what that's for. These I have no clue, because nothing lines up with it. And then I'm going to run those those interior cockpit lights on a separate switch. The console and the back wall where the furnace is and stuff, all those buttons that I have on the back wall, and the furnace itself, I'm going to have come on as soon as you turn the power on. And then you'll be able to turn on the cockpit interior lights on a separate switch, the interior lights of the back half where where they're doing all their work, all their salvaging. Then I'll have another, that's 2. Then I'll have a switch for the 2 lights down at the bottom where they have the, you know, the stairwell where all this is. And then the steps that come down, you know, in that area, and the droid thing will be there. I'm going to have light on each side. They're going to be on a separate switch. And what else? Back interior lights, cockpit interior lights, outside exterior lights, which I consider that these. Headlights. I thought there was one more thing. No, and then the power switch. So that's 5 switches. 2 interior, 2 exterior, and a switch. And that way I can, if I take it anywhere to a show, I don't have to have all the lights running all the time. Where are we at? Wiring. So I'm going to need to use something to prop this up, and I'm going to use this new spray gun that I'm getting once it gets warm out and I can get out in the garage. This is a nice one because it has a nice plastic container. Oh, you got an adjustable air intake? Is that what that is? Or do you just take that off? How's that work? I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like you can adjust how much, or you take it off and you can take it on and off. But I'm looking forward to using this gun. It's got 3 different needles. But this will be for big stuff. I have a red one, but this one's really nice. It fits in your hand. And then I can have one set up with, this one's got the 1.4 millimeter. And you got, of course, a 1.7, and this is probably a 2.0. That's usually how they come. Yep, 2.0. So I got 3 needle sizes. You got your wrenches and, you know, cleaning tools and the usual stuff they come with. And these aren't overly expensive, but they don't really have to be. It's not like I'm painting cars or something for a living. This will work great. Or I can leave this one for model kits, and then the other one can just be for things around the house. A little tinning on it. And we're going to go with blue and green. This way it'll kind of let me know where these are coming from. If I have everything kind of different. Tilt you that way I can hold you here and still get my hand over here without being in the way. There's that one. And we'll use green as our negative. There we go. Well, no, because those lights are going to be separate. But this one here I can tie together. Because I'll have the resistor is already on this end. So the wire blue coming off here I can tie. So I don't need a real long blue one here. So those are going to come on together. This is console and that's the center console. So we only need just enough to get out here. And then we can tie this and that one together right here. And that should give us enough. I mean, it dropping down is not a whole lot of wire, so that'll work. And we might as well do the same with the ground. We'll tie all the negatives together from this one to this one, and then only a positive and negative coming to here, and then it Y's off. Whee! So you can go down, and so can you. And that's how that'll sit. And then we just got to do, we can grab those right here. We don't need you right now because we can start, and you can get out of the way, we can start getting this soldered up. Does that make sure that's all dry? Not quite. Those there are still, these probably seeped down around it and sealed it. There's still this one here and that, these two here and that one there are still kind of tacky. So in that case, let's get the old tape. The old tape roll, and you can do this. And that way its consoles aren't sitting on the... Alright, let's get this negative on here first. I have a set of helping hands, but they always can't reach where you need them to. What we'll do is we'll put the shrink tube over that. That way we can slide it back up. Beautiful. Now we can cover all that. There we go. Now I'll have a little bit of strain relief, and like I said, there wasn't any real danger of it shorting with anything else, because I don't know anything else that's going to come through this hole, or they're going to share a hole that's going through here. These wires will probably be about like that and then drop down. So now, where are we at now? Can we put this inside you? I technically think we can. I think we can permanently mount this piece in here. There's no, I mean, it'd be easier to get a couple Jawas in here now, like if I want some at this console. But I can get in there with tweezers and set them down, because I don't have them painted, and it's not going to be that. Everything's getting tight here now that we got electronics everywhere and consoles in the way. I might even slide a little piece of plastic there to help it push down. One little, maybe two pieces of styrene just slid under there, and maybe even from the back here. Yeah, that'll give a little push. That's what we'll do. But we'll just squish some glue right in there. Might as well nothing to it but to do it. I'm trying to just go through my head. Is there any other reason why I wouldn't want to do that right now? And I can't think of anything. Everything's painted. Everything's lit. Everything's lit. That is working. So let's do it. But yeah, I'm printing a lightsaber right now from something I got off of Etsy. I printed it the one time. It's really cool. It comes in certain you got your emitter, your switch section, so it's sliced in, you know. You got your emitter, your switch section, and then several pieces for your handle and your pommel. And you can add or print more of the handle ones to make your handle bigger. So you can make a regular two-handed size, and then and if you remove a couple of the handle pieces, you can make a smaller one. So kind of like a samurai who has their katana and their wakizashi. You can do that, and then you can print enough parts for two of the regular size, and just don't put the pummels on it, and you can go, and then you can have a double blade. So it's pretty cool. But I just want these for wall mounts. I have my lightsabers, LED lightsabers. But yeah, I didn't realize that I ran out of fluid the first print. So she was going down and no fluid in there. So yeah, these failed. Here's the switch section where you got all these little. But yeah, it was almost done too. But I think we're gonna stop there to let this cure. because I don't want this bouncing around. While I'm trying to get it glued down. Plus I got the scrap pieces back here I want to remove once it sets, which shouldn't take too long with super glue, but like I said, lately my super glue has just been a pain. Oh, look at that. Good catch. We have a wire that's trying to go rogue here. It wanted to become part of the floor. Alright, we got everybody. 2 short ones, 2 long ones. Short ones are go way up front, that's why. Yeah, I'm really excited to get this all up and lit. It came out pretty good. Okay, started working on getting this ramp hinged up. Already put the hydraulic parts right here on. These are the 3D printed pins that I created. Here's the pins. I got it. That's all supports right there. I haven't unsupported all this. These are extra. Well, 2 of them are going to go here, and 1's an extra. And somewhere I have caps. Well, I have caps, and then there's a cap. So this is the pin I just shoved through, and then I just printed just a little cap and actually made a little hole in it, so the right diameter of the pin, so you can actually press in. And I did that. Just glued the caps on, so that's good. We're going to use this, I'm going to try to use this metal rod, which is actually a post from an AMT, model kit that I probably went with a tube for power. And this is those solid posts they come with. Hopefully I can cut it, because it's going to have to get cut. But this will look really nice, because it'll be an actual piece of metal. And I won't have to worry about it warping. Here's the pins that they had you print. And, that would work fine too. It's not like there's a lot of stress. This door doesn't weigh anything, and it's just going to do that. And then here's the top parts that go on top. But it just happened to be the exact diameter, and the actual resin part is actually a little bigger. But I think they had you print them big so you could cut them to size, because otherwise, I don't know. But I'm a little on the fence, and that's why I got to get this hinged on here, because this is too. With that on there, well, we'll do the plastic one because it's easier to. With that on there and that on there, that's as far as that goes in the closed position. Because what it's really going to do is slide up and down in there. But that's too big for the closed position, because if you can kind of see, it's in the closed position. That's gonna, maybe it'd be easier if I actually do this and try to show you from the other side. Who's hitting? You are. If you look from the other side, there's not a lot of rod that's going to be showing, if much at all. Once that's put there, it's going to be pretty much gone. But then my other concern is, if I cut this plastic piece right there, or the metal, is there enough there for when this goes down? She's going to sit about that high off the ground. And it's going to need a pretty good amount of rod, it looks like. I mean, you got the cap, so we're going to see. It's going to be close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it on these first. But we got to get this hinged on here. So I cut a piece of brass rod, and I'm just going to tap it right through. So I cut it. I measured this, and it added how much I want to go into here, or as much as I can get to go into that, because it's pretty. I think it printed it as a complete hollow tube, but there's probably support in there or something that I can't get. I can only get about yay deep, and this might be the side I cut, so it's going to have burrs, and it's really not going to want to go in. Yeah, I can get that in about, it's about 5 millimeters, and that's enough. So I'm just measuring this and adding 5 millimeters for what's going to go in each side there. I do wish it could go in at least that far. It doesn't have to go all the way through. That's a little overkill. So I'm going to pick, I kept the factory edge. As you can see when they had it on where they cut it, and it's nice and smooth, so I have that factory edge on the outside. I'm going to flip it, because there's where I cut that one. I'm going to flip it and get the factory edge on this side, and that way you have a nice factory edge. I mean, we could grind it, but hey, if you can skip a step or a process just by cutting smartly, we can avoid all that. I mean, I probably could use my little pipe bent cutter, but that's a little over. Take forever, you know, just for this little rod. And then what we should do probably is clean up the burrs. Almost give it a little bit of a point to have it help push through, because we got some stickage in there, but it will, like this one is trying to go all the way through. This one we got a little bit of a, but I can tap that in there. So I guess we're good. I mean, there's no other reason. We can still work on all this. So we can get up to the side here and be able to thwack it. Hopefully we can get it to line up and get in there. I don't know if I first try to press. Let me try that. The one side should go in fairly good. This one, because I can kind of push it in. Was it? Yeah. Maybe we'll thwack that. I think that's going to go in. Yep. That's the one that's giving me a better deal. We're probably only just catching it now, because there's about 5 millimeters worth of. There we go. It started to catch it. Keep forgetting those. There we go. This will give me the ability to get really tight. Alright, we'll stop there. It's never fun when you have to beat on a model. I don't know if I can kind of give it a press. Pressing would be better. Oh man. Like I said, this one might be a little more of a pain. I was hoping it would blow through some of the plastic that's causing problems. I might even put my finger here to support that wall. You can't do that. Thank you very much. I mean, it's going. Just gotta have patience and slowly but surely. Oh yeah, now it's starting to go into the door. But I want to try. There's a little bit of play side to side, so I want to see if it blew any plastic out. Let's get it out of the way. too bad. We're getting there. We're almost about the same. So I'm afraid if I... There we go. It feels good on these edges. Because you got, like I said, they gave you a little play there, which is nice. And the other nice thing is I'll see brass metal in the little gaps there, so you don't have to try to hide any of that. It's working. I'd just rather tap a couple times. There we go. Good, good, good. Exactly what I was looking for. But now we gotta shift the door back that way. And there we go. Go. And then we'll have magnets in there. I'm almost thinking here I just put a little metal. Cut a little piece of metal in it, because I only need a magnet on one side. And then... because otherwise I gotta drill that out. This is deep enough for my magnets. That's not. But there we go. We got the bridge. Or the ramp. Bridge. Keep thinking like it's a drawbridge or something. We got that on there. And I got one full and one little notched off piece of rod for something. I know I'm going to use one of these for my Star Destroyer for the blockade runner. I had that come off the stand. Okay, now on our cockpit, I went in and put some tulip on the edge to help with the light bleed. I have a little bit down there that's kind of sneaking up behind the console. I was hoping the console would get pressed up against that front wall a little tighter. Otherwise I would have just put some tulip in and then put the floor in and squished it like a gasket. I guess, yeah, we need to be like this. Get one of these here. Put one of these on so we can see how that's going to fit. And try to get a rough... I guess I can go up the side here. How are these going to fit in there? Somewhere about there. If I kind of go off the side here. The other thing is I think the metal pins fit better. So if I hold that there, I put the pen away and I need it. I'd rather test it. This is fun to do. I wonder if it's better if I try on this one. Make sure that's up all the way. Okay. I'd rather check with this, if I cut this to the right length for the closing, will it still have enough rod for the opening? And I'd rather test with this. Oh, don't want that to go in my face. If that stuff's toxic when it's liquid, I don't think it'd be much better powder form. Let's see if we can do it this way. That gives you about an opening of about to there, which I believe it's not enough. It's almost like I gotta hang this on the ship and see. I kind of have a feeling this is gonna go way. Oh no. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, she really only opens about that far. Because all this must come down a little bit over the track. So as long as this is able to be... You're going to have to kind of do this. And this. As long as we can close it with that amount of rod. And I think I can even, not at that length. We're going to need a little more chopped off there. That is closed all the way. I'm gonna say that's a go. If anything, it's a hair long, and we can trim that. It's hard to get you out of there. Open the bridge. All right, so we're gonna have to cut. Actually, I should get these painted red. We're gonna have to cut. Let's see what sides like to go up in here. That one's going up pretty good. That one side goes up really good. I'm gonna mark that. It's the other side we cut. Give me some. Actually, gotta mark it. The other side we cut. It's going to be the part that goes up there, and I can clean all that up. Does that fit in both of them well? Yeah, pretty much. And where's the other one? Well, we're working on one first. Do one at a time. You're gonna want to be over there, Jack Kitty, my co-pilot. All right. Well, let's see if this thing will cut it. I know it will, but I want to get this a little different direction here. There we go. See if this will cut it. All right. Piece is probably stoking. Yeah, it's hot. Goodbye, Jack. That didn't even budge you. Usually something like that would make him run. It's like a vacuum cleaner to him. Now, this is the thing, is getting it together. We might have to do it from out here. Or we can open the door, pull you up. Sorry that I'm not going to push that pin in all the way in there. But that's what we're getting. That's going to be awesome. Then we'll paint that pin cap. Silver. I don't need the little caps, but that works. Now I'm gonna stick it on the craft again to double, triple make sure that it that the ramp can come down and the rod don't fall out. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. And I'll just cut this one on that side. Make it a hair bigger. I think we'll be fine. I don't have to go through all that. That's for nothing. But I'm not gonna have you go through all that. I'll do that off camera. It's pretty much the same thing, and then we'll paint the pins, the 2 pins, and we'll assemble it. Like I said, that's not very hard. It's just putting a pin in, but that's great. I'm really, really happy how that looks and works. Glad that actually got in there. Enough, yeah, and that's on there good. Nice brass rod. And it's not a tube, it's an actual solid rod, so it should be pretty stable. So, I decided to do some new detail parts on this front gate. It had just these triangles like this, but really small. So what I did is I just measured them and went into CAD and made them actual little pyramids like they're supposed to be. And then I decided to do some smaller ones in between them. I believe the Canon one it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they might be all the same size. And then there's nothing here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm gonna do it this way. This already had that 3D printed thing, so that's what made it nice to do the 5 on the bottom. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's gonna be 4 small ones, which I printed up, and we will put them in between, and that'll at least make it look a little more like it's supposed to. All in all, the detail on this thing is great. It's just little minor things like this, but that's okay. It makes me have to do a little more stuff to make it more real or more authentic to what the filming miniature was. But it doesn't have to be exact, because we're not really trying to make that exact one, unless you're going back in time in a sense, before they ran into Luke and the droids, because eventually they got destroyed by the stormtroopers. So that clan of there we go, that clan of Jawas is kind of non-existent anymore. Well, let's clean these up. Sometimes you can get these to peel up pretty nice. You just kind of take your time and use your fingernail to pull along the edge. And then right now, I don't know if you hear the printer, but I'm printing some side details that were missing. But I am going along trying to make some things a little more authentic, because they are Carillion mining crawlers, what they really were. I was watching a thing on it, and they were saying how the first people to populate Tatooine, since it's not a very hospitable place to live, but it has a lot of minerals, so it became a lot of mining. So a lot of these Carillion mining crawlers were there, and then when they decided to up and leave, they'd left the crawlers there, and the Jawas just hijacked them and turned them into their little scavenging factories. And then, you know, Jawas, they're gonna, you know, not having all the parts, they're gonna do anything and modify it to work for them and for the parts they all have. But we have the liberty to kind of make it your own and do your own thing. Oh, we need to get these in the tweezers. These are so small, they're a little harder. You kind of gotta grab them on the tweezers with a flat side and a point, and hope you don't squeeze too hard. And make it fly, but yep, like that. Well, actually there I was trying not to squeeze. Oh, look at it, went right in there and glued itself. Make sure I get the glue out of there. Unbelievable. I wonder if I can just dip that in there. Yep. Try not to get too much. I don't mind a little over squishing out, but it's less cleanup. Only hard thing about triangles is when you go to push them down, they want to slide because there's no way to get directly on here. And we're just eyeing it up. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's a Jawa Sandcrawler. They are beat up. We'll let that cure and then we'll come in, but I'm just making sure it looks like there's even spacing there and there, and then they're kind of going in a similar line with the flat spots here. It looks like this is got to come down here. There we go. But yeah, having the 3D printer makes things so much nicer that I can say, oh, I need a light, let me make a light fixture, or oh, I need to add more detail to something. And now I won't have to overly scratch build, I can just print it. The part is designing it. Now these were easy, you just make a triangle. All I did is made it a triangle, and then you do a thing called a pad, which makes it, you know, from a flat triangle, two-dimensional triangle, to a raised one, but then it's just a triangle with thick walls. And then you have these little chamfer things that'll, you know, then you chamfer things, so you pick that edge, you pick those three edges, and you can do a curve or an angle, and I just chose the angle, and it does one this way, and that way into the point, and you just measure, you know, and you can adjust how much it does, because you have a flat wall, and you can choose how much you want it to chamfer. And I just did it till it made little points like a pyramid, and that's all there is to it. But yeah, that's gonna be much better. And I guess those are for when this thing comes down, it can, I don't know, dig into the ground or not damage this edge up or something. And then we got to get the magnets in here, and I got to figure out if I'm just going to put a piece of metal there for the magnet to grab on, or if I'm just going to put another magnets on both sides, and then it'll really snap. But I'd like to find a piece of metal I could put in there, but I don't know if I have a little round piece of metal. So I've been recently just adding greeblies onto the vehicle. Just things I've seen that needs attention or addressed. Like fixing these up here. They were just, like I said before, they were just these little raised kind of triangles. So I went and actually printed up some pyramid parts and then did these smaller ones in between. So that looks good. And then I went and made some of these little detail parts there. I know for sure you see these three on the actual filming miniature. I don't know if they're these shapes, so you can't really get a good picture of what this is. whether it's just a cylinder or a little, you know, spike or whatever. So I just made them little triangle pieces. And this one I just added just for a little bit. There was glue on my finger there. I do want to get that off because it'll, when I go to hit, these with the hull color, we'll have a rough area here. And then on the cockpit area part, I did some more detail. I printed this up, which I used on the main body of the hull. This is some detail. It might even be like something here and something here. It's hard to see in a picture. You can't, because everything's at an angle, the shots, or it's like, you know, and you can't really get to what it is. So I just made like a almost like a dryer vent, the old metal dryer vents with the flap that opens. Almost did that. Even made the little hole down the bottom. And now that's just another one of those pieces I have on the other. And then I add some type of electronics control part. There is something there, but I added a piece there. Did some more greeblies up front. These here I kind of see on the ship. And there was something up there that I just kind of added just to add. And basically same here, but I put a different control part on this side. And these are, like I said, this is a part of that resin piece for the bumper. And I just cut this little control out. So I added some detail parts on the side there. These pieces here. And on the other side I went and did something, used a different piece. You can see the big square thing. It's hard to see the other. But that gave more detail in there. But that's where we're at on that. And then I was just painting up some barrels because I got to get all these little detail parts. Excuse me, my sinuses, allergies. We got to get until we can completely glue that one side on and the roof down, or the ceiling, I should say. I want to get all these detail parts in because these are the barrels. I did shrink them down because if you print them to the size of the file once, they're like this big. I'll show you. They're like that big. Oops, upside down. They're like that big, and they're great looking barrels. So I'm glad I have them. I can use them maybe in the Razor Crest and any other ship. Shoot, I might even shrink these down and put some in the Falcon, but I think I do have some. But yeah, that was way too big because, you know, a Jawa's only that size. And that's like huge. So now at least with these other barrels, they're not so, and then these are smaller. So I did two different sizes. I printed, I think it does 9 barrels per file, which you could just put multiples down. But so I did 2 more sets of 9, and did all the yellow ones are the bigger one, and 3 of the reds are a bigger one, and then 1 red's a small, and then all the green and blues are the smaller ones. That way we have a different scale sizes, you know. So at least to these smaller ones, the bigger, because I did make the print the Jawas in 3 different heights, so they weren't all exactly the same height. Like he had different poses, I think like 6 different poses, so I printed each set of poses, which is 6 of them, 3 times in 3 different sizes. So I'll at least have 3 out of the 6 poses. I'll have 3 different sizes per pose, and then that way they don't look like they're all together. But yeah, we have to get these. It's going to be so much easier to get these in and placed and glued. And like I said, I'm going to want these glued so they don't slide around. Just like I think all the people and the droids will be glued. Probably the only things that won't be glued is the garbage. But like this ship here that's going to be inside, I'm going to leave that moved so I can move wherever I want. I think I'll do the same thing with the X-Wing wing. It's just going to be able to be moved around, and the canopy, and these are supports too. But they look like you know, like some type of plating on a ship. So I just painted them up, and then which were supports for this. I think these went like that or something. But I'll paint them up and make them look like they're, you know, ship panels or panels to something. So I don't know if I'll glue those in some type of way, like they just threw them up there, threw them together, like kind of like that. But the droids, definitely these barrels and the Jawas, all the things, you know, I want to have in a permanent area. Just maybe those few things we'll let floating, but it's going to be so much easier. There's no way I'm going to reach way in the back up on the upper balcony and put a little Jawa. And just like we're going to occupy this with some more Jawas too. But I came up with colors I wanted to use. The yellow, red, green, blue. Painted the tops and did a quick wash on them and then hit them with a clear. So they're still kind of drying. But I am going to get these two pieces glued together and try to get these ceiling lights finally glued up or working, because I need to get them through these little holes and I don't want to put the resistors on them. Or I could have drilled a bigger hole, but I like to keep it as small as possible. And then we'll come back and show you that. Alright, we're ready to glue these parts together. I think everything's good. That's all I want to do. You always got to make sure. That's all I want to do in there. I'm happy with that. Until adding some Jawas in there. I'd rather touch up these little parts I added on with it all together. This is working. I should probably extend these wires, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Yeah, so I'm going to use a little bit of epoxy for good strength, and then super glue to kind of tack it and hold it in. So let's mix up. Well, I don't know how much epoxy I'm going to need to mix up. So we'll leave little contact points for the super glue. I'm just gonna go right at the four corners. I think is where I'm gonna. Just trying to think where I want to actually save. Here this is a big surface, so we're gonna want to. The other fun thing is going to be getting these wires down the hole while I have a sticky glue everywhere. Because that's where we're at. So this is going to be fun. So we got to start these wires going down. Try not to get them all goobered up with glue. Two of them are longer than others, so we'll start with those two. It's like, do I almost try to lay them down flat so I can get a little more slack on the wiring here? Yeah, it's starting to tack up. We got to get moving. And without causing and we got to get you in there. good. That's good. And my locator pins do not want to stay up. It's just everything's... Everything's trying to fight me. There we go. Oh, and I remember, I didn't realize on this edge there in the front, I don't have to put any glue because give it a squish everywhere, because that's where that overhangs the hatch, or the ramp, I'm sorry, not hatch. Okay, we're still good. Now we just got to keep an eye on how it's sitting. And I think I can set it down like this now. We're a little wider in the ass end, or at least I can't shift that one over, but it's nice and flush over here, so there we go. Trying to make a... get it between the two. Okay, she's glued together. She's glued together, and I hit her with a little bit of paint to paint up those greeblies. And it's nice how they now hide in, but now you can see, you know, some little detail now. Not so plain, smooth, you know, not such a plain surface. And I love how that made that ramp look so much better. Yeah. So it lined up fairly nice. I can't complain. These lines are going right into the hose on both sides. Looks like the top here is a little bit wider than the bottom, but we evened it out, so it's okay. Once we get all the other different shadings and colors on here, it probably won't be so abrupt. But now we can finally, what I've been waiting for, is to get to getting all this wiring finalized here. I already soldered the two lights, the LED strip and bulb in the center for the console. So the console lights here, I soldered them into just two, you know, positive and negative line. I just got to put a shrink tube on there so we don't have any shorts happen. Oh, look at how that broke. That's wow. That's interesting. Well, it might have been really thin, but that's not a big deal. I think some of these different... I bought these spools of different colors, but certain insulations you gotta adjust this so it doesn't over crimp. And I'm wondering if it over crimps on the blue, so I might have to go lighter. Yeah, and I did set it lighter because that one is a lot better. Certain colors, yeah, it grabs right into the wiring. Even though they're all the same gauge and probably the same wire, but just the insulation on them is just different enough. Whether it's harder or softer or something. Oh, all we have to do is just give this a twist and just resolder it. Not a biggie. I'm glad I pulled at that. I mean, this is accessible to the rest of the ship. This upper cavity lines up with the cavity above all the interior here. as you can see, this would be the interior part, and here's that, you know, my user cavity, I guess you could say. So those two line right up, so it's not a big deal. Is there even a wall there in the front? No. It's just hollow all the way through. Alright, let's solder that one back on. So it's kind of good that I did pull at it, and it must have just been hanging on just by a thread. Or me twisting those other wires to it. Made it say nope. Alright, now how are we? Much better. Alright, so what I'm going to do on the little interior light sconces, I thought about, should I run at least 2 of them in series? I'm still thinking about it. The longer ones are the rear ones, so that's how I always know what's the front sconces or the back sconces. But if I do that, if I do series, I'd like to keep them in pairs, so if something does go down, it's at least a pair of lights on the same area. But I think I'm just going to put a resistor on each one, and because I hate the fact that if something goes wrong, another one goes out. So we're just going to leave it alone and run everything in parallel. I don't know if I can get my, I don't think I'm going to get my helping hands up there to hold that. Can I get it this way? Do something weird with that. Even if this holds a resistor. A little notch there, but even if I can get that to hold one part of it. Oh, I forgot to slide you forward. There we go. The thing about these tiny wires, in order for solder to really want to stick, it's got to get hot. I gotta see if I can tin this a little more. Usually they're pre-tinned. Can I do that there? Let's try that. Let's see if we can get it. None of them want to stick to that wire, which is unusual. Even though they're small and a pain in the butt, they usually like to stick unless it's got coated with, there it goes, it might have got coated with overspray or something. That could be it. Yeah, there it grabbed. Alright. This one's going to be more fun. I'll have to go through and tin them because there's probably gunk, like I said. Gunk or oils from your hands. Or during manufacturing. I have a set of clamps that are made out of that flexible tubings that snap together like they use for liquid or even air on like a leak or let me show you. This thing here It's just made out of these pieces that they use for like to blow air through, or even you could even run a liquid through here, and then it's flexible so you can get it so it sprays like a coolant on a part and stuff like that, or you can have it blowing air to, you know. But it works great. You know, someone came up with the idea of finding these clips, alligator clips that can poke into the tubes, and then you have those nice flexible. Like Adam Savage uses this type of stuff. I forget what it's called for his making his own LED panel lights. And it did have a clamp, but it doesn't work good for my table, so I might find a spot and have it, or even a base. You have it permanently, you know, either permanently mounted, but I like that I can have it movable like this. It'll need a heavy base like this too. Alright, let's see. This one we're going to have to be closer because this wire's shorter. You got to get one closer than that. There we go. There we go. I just needed to tin them. Alright, so there, this side we have the positives done. Maybe I'll put these these pieces on for the negatives right now. Oh, sometimes you can get them to stick to your, because they're hard to pick up. Sometimes you can just press your hand on them while they're laying flat and they'll stick. But yeah, so you just take those. Do the same thing, 10 each end. Find a negative here. I keep doing it until I see like a little bit of solder stay on there. Why aren't you clamping? I think I found out I have to maybe further tap that hole because I think it's not quite threaded all the way through, or there's a burr in there. Go. Yeah, and then that just gives you your negative something more to when you're doing your next connection. Especially when I'm going to have all 4 of these negatives together, I can just have and then twist these together. And we'll run a little shrink tube on here to help that. Same thing with these. We're going to run a little piece. Now where's the smaller one? There you are. Grab the other. Looks like I will have to lick my finger. That'll work too, but sometimes just the moisture on your hands because they're so light. We'll pick them up. That one's on secure. And let's shrink to all those. I can show you one side and then I'll do the other one off camera because it's just repeating what I did. And really all I'm doing is putting the resistors on. Get tweezers because these things are small. There we go. Takes a little more shrinking these with a soldering gun than if you just hit it with a lighter, but it doesn't blacken, make everything look black from the soot from the lighter. There we go. I prefer doing it with just heat. Alright, and we just got to do the same on the other side. Okay, we're all wired up. I wired some leads onto the SMDs, soldered them all, and just twisted all the resistors together and the little metal ends that I soldered on the negatives. So it makes it so much, like I said, it makes it so much easier than dealing with those little tiny wires. You can get a good twist, so you can get a good solder joint. Yeah, so they're all together and everything's working. And then I got both the console lights, which is what this blue wire is, and then these are the sconces. I'm trying to do everything in a different color because I'm going to have switches. Like I'm going to have a switch for the ceiling lights. The consoles are going to come on automatically when the ship powers up. The consoles and then the furnaces and everything on the interior part of the, I guess you'd call it the hangar of the vehicle, are going to come on automatically. And then I think I'm going to do a separate switch for these lights up here. So we'll have a switch for up here for the lights. We'll have a switch for the interior lights in this area. We'll have a switch for the headlights. And we'll have a switch for the lights where the access thing on the bottom that has the ladder, where you see R2 get sucked up in New Hope. I'm going to light that area up as well. So I'll have a separate switch on there, and I think that's all we're going to do. I think I'm going to make both panels, both of these lids, I think I'm going to make both of these top pieces able to come up with magnets. But if I need to hide, but I'd like to have maybe the smaller one, since it's easier to grab because it's a little taller and you got better sides, be the one that you open more often to turn the ship on, or the vehicle on. So this is where I'm going to have the switches under, and that's kind of towards the front here. Like this goes here. And then somewhere here we'll have the switches. So that's why I'm wondering if I should put a power switch here so I don't have to keep going on here. Because I think I'd like to be able to get in there in case I, be able to open the whole top if I need to. But this would be the one that you have to get into to turn it on. We'll figure all that out when we get there. And then I got my list of droids that I got to look up, that I all printed, that I got to look up and try to get how they were actually painted, because that's what I want to get on here next, so I can get this interior shut down. Like I said, we got our barrels, all the detail. I got the barrels done. And I did them, some in a yellow, some in a red, some in a green, and some in a blue. Maybe to symbolize different things that are in them or something. And these pieces, that wrecked ship part is going to be cool. But this I might leave loose, so I can move it wherever I want to in there. Barrels are going to be glued down. This is probably going to just sit in there loose. This too. So if I take it to a show, it's not a big deal to go in and grab these three things and put them in something separate to ship them. These parts here that I'm using as scrap, I'll probably maybe set them up, in a way like they're a pile or something or whatever, and maybe try to glue them together as like one whole. And I don't know if I'll glue them inside the ship. I'm going to use some supports from my resin printer as like trusses, scrap truss. And see if I can get over a black part. You might be able to see it better. They kind of have that truss look. I'll set them in a weird you know, just like a pattern, like they just threw them there and just glue those together. And I might actually have those glued down. Find a place that I want them to stay and glue them down. The droids have to get glued down because they're so small, and all the Jawas and stuff. But again, I'm rambling, so let's see what we got going on here. As you can see, we have some lighting in there. Yay! And I think that's enough. It would have probably been nice to have maybe a third one up here by the front console. I think 2 back here is enough. Or if this didn't have a movable ceiling like that, it would probably have been nice for a third one right there. But how would you do that with the top that comes off? So that works. And then when you look in here, that looks great. You can see that they're light fixtures. They don't overpower. It's not overly bright in there. And I don't want that. I just want, you know, especially as you're looking at this from the outside, just want to see a little light glow in the windows. That's all. Like that. And the consoles are all lighting up nice. Although, with the interior lights on, it makes things a little dimmer, but that's okay. And that's why I want the switch to shut off, because when you shut that switch off, like if you simulate it this way and pull this red out and just leave the console lights on, then that still looks cool. So you can have it dark in there if you want, and then you can see all the buttons and gauges that I made. So I'm happy that those are doing well. Still getting a little bit of bleed from the back of the console, but it's not that bad. I got some of the tulip around there the best I could, but that'll work. But definitely when you have the interior lights on, you don't see any of that nonsense. So that's really cool. And then from the front, you know, you can see that center console from the front, control console. That'll give a good light effect in the windows. Alright. But like I said, now it's the tedium of painting all these droids and Jawas. You got all these guys to take care of. Like I said, I got to go through and see exactly how some of these droids looked. That's the Gonk droid, so he's kind of easy. But, like, we got this guy. I don't remember exactly what color he is. I got to also figure out which R2 astromech this guy is. He's got it more of a like an R4 head, like you see on the a lot on the Y-wings, especially the famous yellow one. I was watching New Hope and I was like, I don't remember ever seeing this, but yeah, he's in the, when you first come down in the New Hope and they show where R2's leaning against the wall before he wakes up, and there he is, the old stovetop droid. So I did get to see him in the movie. I think that is R2. So he's an easy paint. And then I gotta look up to see what all these guys are. I'm not even sure what your name is. This guy here, I'm not even sure what he's from. One of the, it could be Star Wars Rebels. Could be any of those. I know I have Chopper, which is cool. And I got that little droid from Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order. Hopefully he doesn't fall apart once I remove everything that's kind of holding them together. But he's tiny. But he's got to be tiny. I mean, he folded up like a little backpack on a person. But I think I've scaled him a little bigger so he would actually print. What we got there? I think this is the hangar deck droid that actually supposed to clean decks and stuff like that. So he's like a maintenance droid. Kind of like the mouse droid. I'm not sure what this guy, or astromech, is. He's got the cone head. So I got to look up all these. I mean, I have the names down, but I don't remember. Because I got an R1, an R2D2, an R419, an R5, an R9. Is that V1? Sometimes I don't even recognize my writing. We'll figure it out. There's BB-8. Here's Chopper. He's very easy to tell because he's like a little baby astromech. There's Chopper. Tried to get all the, you know, I think it's great that I found all the canon droids. Mouse droid. And the rest of you, I think, are pretty much Jawas. Yep. You are all Jawas. But then we have more droids over here, the larger ones. C-3PO. And then I got a broken down Federation droid, where it's just from his waist up. So that'd be good to have him laying around in the scrap pile. And we got C-3PO. We got some pit droids here. One carrying a box that didn't quite print. The other one's just walking. Not sure what this crazy guy is. Forget his name. This is K2SO without a head. But I think I have his head. Yep, right there. But we'll basically call him an Imperial droid. That's what K2SO was. And there's part of his arm that didn't print well, but that's okay. We'll make it look like that arm. I think I have the arm there, yeah. So I can have like him laying on the ground or, you know, leaning against a pile or something and have his head and arm just kind of sitting there. This is one of those nurse droids, like when Luke's in the Bantha tank. It has that microphone mouth, because it actually wasn't those old school microphones. And we got this thing. Not sure what he's called. We got that black dome that you see the Jawas shooing in the New Hope. This guy, I'm not sure what he was in, but he's cool. And here's the filament printed Gonk droid. So I might paint him up and just have him just, you know, have this one walking around. Yeah, and I printed them in different scales too. That's awesome. I'll have this one walking around, and this one can just be kind of scrap junker. That's not working. That's why I made sure I wrote down the ones I got, but so I'll just type in the name and see what comes up and find him and then start painting him. But that is going to be the next things to start doing, and then and then all the Jawas. We'll probably just do a bulk spray on them. I gotta find the brown, and they're gonna be fairly easy because their robes are one color, and then we'll do any of them that have which I think they all do. Yeah, they have the belts that cross over their chests. These guys are actually holding those stun guns. And I'm interested in printing these guys in full size because they're about yay big. Full size. I'd actually shrink them down. But if you print the file at 100%, I think they're like 14 centimeters. So they're pretty tall. And that's cool. And I think I'm going to do a pose. What is there? 6 different poses? Is that what I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there is. I think there's 6 different poses. So I have the 6 of them. And I'll probably print them at different heights. I don't know if they already did things at height. I think they're all the same height. And then like I printed these all at different heights. I printed all 6 poses and I did 3 different heights in those poses. But much as basic hand painting, really, that needs to happen. Well, okay, I've been getting a little bit of painting done here. I did do this once before and I didn't like it, so I kind of painted it over again. So I still got to do a wash on it, but got the 2 different silvers. I think I did a galvanized tin here and zinc up here, and then just the rest of it's white. A little bit of a bronze detail on those. And then we'll, then I hit it with a gloss clear, and then we'll hit it with a wash. I think it was a little too dark before. I was letting a little too much of the black plastic show through. So once I put a wash on it, it was just a little too strong. And I want to actually be able to put my own damage hits in it instead of the whole thing just looking rough, like it was in a fire. X-wing canopies painted. We'll do some chipping on the blue parts, and then I might put some window maker in here to make that kind of look like more like glass and give it a sheen. We'll hit it with a satin coat first to seal all the rest of it in, and then we'll do that. These are just supports from a print, actually from printing that. That's going to look like panel junk. Just misted that with a little bit of white. We'll probably hit it with a little bit of a wash. So that's another pile. I do got to do these girders. Got to figure out what I want to do them in. I think we're going to try to shoot for that like Death Star red. Like was on the second Death Star. You saw the girders where they flew in and everywhere. So that's might what we do with those. And then we can rust them up. And just made up a, this X-wing wing. This is nowhere near correct. There should be a white stripe in between there. And there, it's a little out of dimension, but it's going to be sitting, you're going to be seeing it from like an angle like that, so I wasn't overly worried about it, and then just went through and scratched it like they did. Being there's black plastic underneath, you get the nice black hits. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do a lot of my models in the black plastic, plus the light blocking aspect of it. So it'll look good, and we'll hit it with a wash and a couple, smoke blasts with the air gun, with the airbrush, where it looks like, hits, and where these are more scratches. But that'll look convincing enough sitting. Like I said, I'll probably have it sitting like that, and you're never going to see straight down. It's always going to be at an angle. Because I think I'm going to have these 2 on the conveyor belt. Maybe this up there with it. We could have a lot of the droids down in the bottom. And then I'll paint this pile up so that I can sit it outside, or I can put it on the bottom level. Like I said, it looks like it's supposed to be in the sand, with parts that are disappearing. But we're going to have to make it work for both. And then I got a lot of droids to paint. And another thing that's going to be coming up is I want to add 2 more lights to the inside, way in the back, where the girder goes across, the grate that you can walk across to go between the sides. It's just dark back there because the other lights are, so if like this is the back area, the other lights are way up here, they're not back here, so I'm going to put one on each side there, shining on that girder, and hope it'll give some light to the back there. And these are different light fixtures, they're smaller, so I'll just put 2 I think we went with yellow inside there, so I'll put 2 yellow. I was thinking maybe should I do a warm white to make it a little brighter back there. Maybe I'll do a test, because of warm white to make it a little brighter, and you can see a little more natural color. Might work back there, kind of like that's more of a work area where they need to see. So maybe we will do that. That might work good. Just like the bottom level, I have those white lights, which kind of give it, it's nice because it gives it different things going on. But that's all we're at. I got to do that, and we got to get all these things painted. At least these are started. This will take some time because it's hand painting. I see some X-Wing parts here. We'll try to keep things in a white, and these corrugated hoses will leave black. And and some aluminum colors. And some brasses and stuff in there, and this piece here will be intricate. I might leave this black and just highlight the jet ports or whatever that is. I don't even know what that is. Looks like it's almost the top half of this. But yeah, I got all the names here, so I remembered what the names is, because some of the ones that aren't, they're weird names. Like this guy, what's his name? I don't know. So I got names of every guy I used that I took off that big bundle of robots that I got, files. And we'll get some references and we'll start painting these guys. So we can close up that back half and get that front glued on. So next time I come back, hopefully there'll be some painted parts.